The Pittsburgh Steelers have re-signed one player in free agency and have lost 6 others this far. So, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they've re-signed center Ryan McCullum to a 1-year contract, but they have lost many starters. But first, before I get more into it, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news and updates. Also like this video. Now, let's get right back into it. So, the Steelers, they have signed center Ryan McCollum to a 1-year, $1 million contract. A backup center who is signed now to a contract extension. Also, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they've decided to release defensive tackle, nose tackle, Larry Ogunjobi. So they lose out on him, and they will save around $7 to $8 million in cap space because of it. So that's one player gone who was a starter last season. But the Pittsburgh Steelers have also lost out on running back Najee Harris, who signed with the Chargers yesterday, or at least agreed to terms. You have to remember, all these are agreed to terms until official free agency period starts on Thursday. So, guard James Daniels has also left this team. He has signed with the Miami Dolphins. Cornerback Donte Jackson is also gone as well, who is now a Los Angeles Charger. Quarterback Justin Fields is also gone, who is signed with the New York Jets. And offensive tackle Dan Moore Jr. is gone as well, who signed with the Tennessee Titans. So, those are 6 players basically gone for the Pittsburgh Steelers who were starter capable players this past season. 5 of them were starters, and 6 of them were at one point. So, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they lose out on those players, but they agreed to terms on the ERFA tender, center/guard, Ryan McCullum. This signing of Ryan McCollum is nothing big at all. It's going to be a backup center, a backup guard who they agreed to terms with, and just someone to have in terms of depth, just in case someone gets injured. McCollum, he's a player who signed with the Houston Texans as an undrafted rookie free agent following the 2021 NFL Draft. He was then signed to the Detroit Lions. He appeared in 13 games with 1 start. In 4 seasons, he has appeared in 30 regular season games, starting 3 and 1 postseason game. He played college football at Texas A&M, where he started 10 games at center in his senior season. But he is now a Pittsburgh Steeler and a center/guard for us. Larry Ogunjobi, on the other hand, the Pittsburgh Steelers have decided to release him, and he's appeared in 124 regular season games, and I really liked his game and what he was able to do. But the Steelers obviously decided to get off his contract and save money. He started 108 games in his career. In his 8th season in the NFL, including the last 3 years with the Steelers, he has 361 tackles, including 199 solo stops, 79 quarterback hits, 27.5 sacks, 56 tackles for loss, and 3 pass defense, 3 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries. So, in his 3 seasons in Pittsburgh, he appeared in 48 games, 45 starts, 132 tackles, 26 quarterback hits, 62 solo stops, 6 sacks, 15 tackles for loss, 2 pass defense, 1 forced fumble, and 2 fumble recoveries. He came over from the Cincinnati Bengals as a huge addition to this team, and he has been a solid player. I know many people get on him for not being as productive as he was supposed to be, but he was a really good player. He always beat his guy, it seemed like, and it seems like he always had open lanes to the quarterback, and he made the most of them. He may not have got the sack, but he put pressure on them, it seemed like. So he did his job, and he was good in the run defense as well. I really liked him as a player. I wish he could have stuck around and been more healthy, but he's been a good player for the Steelers. And now they move on for him, and they will have to look at a different route at the defensive tackle, nose tackle position. But he's now gone, being released from the team, saving some money. Now, let's look at the individuals who were gone. Najee Harris signing with the Chargers. This is, or was expected to happen. The 2 teams who had interest in him was the Chargers and the Raiders, and the Chargers are a good scheme for him, having the former Ravens offensive coordinator now as their offensive coordinator. His scheme fit on them should be much better than the Pittsburgh Steelers, and let's see what he's able to do. He's agreed to terms with them, and he's always been a positive person, and he comes in with the Chargers now, and let's see him put over 1,000 yards for another season. He's done it 4 straight years so far in his career. Let's see him do it for 5 straight. So there's nothing bad to say about Najee Harris, and he signs a deal with them. Guard James Daniels, it's a bummer that he tore his Achilles, and he didn't sign for as much as he probably expected before his Achilles injury. If he didn't get injured, he would have signed for way more, but he signed for a decent amount of contract, basically the same contract he got in Pittsburgh many years back, but he signed it with the Miami Dolphins, and he's been a good, solid guard. He's been one of the best guards and best offensive linemen on the Pittsburgh Steelers for the last 3 years. So him going to the Dolphins, obviously the Steelers now have the other guy they drafted in the draft, and they have James Daniels, no need for him anymore, so they let him go, and he signs with a different team. On the other hand, Donte Jackson leaving to the Chargers. This one was expected as well in terms of him leaving the Steelers. It's a bummer that that trade never really resulted in anything too big from Deontay Johnson leaving the Pittsburgh Steelers. It only lasted 1 year with Donte Jackson, and it did decently, but it's a bummer that it didn't go for like a player that could stick around. But Donte Jackson's gone. He's a guy who gets turnovers, but on the same point, he always lets up big, deep passes and big plays. So I'm glad that the Steelers move on from him and look at a different area to fulfill the cornerback position. Quarterback Justin Fields is a bummer. I really want him back. The Steelers don't have no starting quarterback on their roster right now, and Justin Fields could have been that. They weren't willing to give him the contract he wanted, weren't willing to secure his job as a starting quarterback for the Steelers, and they let him go. The Jets gave him all that. They gave him what he needed, what he wanted, and he's a New York Jets, and that was expected. The New York Jets had big interest in him. We all knew this. That was the only team as a basically competitor to the Steelers, and they get the deal done right away on day 1 of the tampering period of free agency. Dan Moore Jr. going to the Titans. This is a big deal, actually. I already covered it yesterday if you want to go watch the video, but the Steelers get a 3rd-round draft pick back because of this. Dan Moore Jr., who was a decent center for the Steelers, not too good, not bad, but he was just average, gets a huge contract, and well-deserved, I guess, because he was a 4th-round pick. He gets a draft pick of a 3rd-round back from the Steelers, for the Steelers, and he gets a big contract. He gets a big payday. Many people wanted him benched many seasons ago, but he stuck around. Mike Tomlin believed in him. He played him, and if he did get benched, he wouldn't have got this contract. But he played, started, been healthy, goes against one of the top guys in Myles Garrett every single year, and he gets this huge contract from the Titans. So congratulations to him. It's good to see Brock Jones get an opening spot at left tackle, and Dan Moore Jr., I'm glad to see him go, but on the other hand, Dan Moore Jr. is probably happy to be gone too, based off his contract. So Dan Moore Jr., he goes to the Titans, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, they are rewarded with it. So, once again, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they agreed to terms with center/guard Ryan McCullum. They released Larry Ogunjobi, who's a starter. They lose Najee Harris, who was a starter, James Daniels, who was a starter, cornerback Donte Jackson, who was a starter, quarterback Justin Fields, who at one point was a starter, and Dan Moore Jr., who was a starter. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, in day 1 of free agency, they lost more players than they signed. So, obviously, they signed Malik Harrison as well, but I already covered that yesterday. These are the players basically I didn't cover in a video thus far. They also agreed to terms on tender running back Jalen Warren, basically, put a tender on him, but I already covered that as well. So these are the players I never covered thus far. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below on basically all these additions of Ryan McCullum and also the non-additions and the release of Larry Ogunjobi and the other players who agreed to terms on a different deal with other teams. How do you feel about them leaving? Did you want any of those specific guys back on this team? Did you want the Steelers to re-sign any of those guys? Or are you glad to see them go? Also, how do you feel about the Steelers signing guard/center Ryan McCullum to basically a depth piece on the offensive line? Just let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and which other free agents out there are still out there that you would want the Pittsburgh Steelers to look out for in the coming days of free agency. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Also, make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news, updates, highlights, analysis reports. Free agency is on their way and underway, and many signings have been done, and many players have left. I've covered every single one thus far for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'll continue covering every rumor, every new addition to this team. So if you want updates on everything Pittsburgh Steelers, this is a spot for you. And until the next video, probably later on today, I'll see you guys all later. I'm out. Peace.